Hey folks, Bill here at Junior's Motorhead Garage, and as some of you know, I have an 86 Mustang GT convertible, and just the last weekend we took it out to Hershey to the Chocolate Fox show. I've been noticing on the way out that the shifter in 5th gear was really jumping around a lot while we're on 78 cruising out towards Hershey. It seemed like it could have been a transmission issue. The transmission that's in my car, 5th gear is definitely an overdrive gear. It's not meant to really be put under load, but with the 411s up on the highway, traveling at highway speeds, we'll say, when we would come up on a truck and have to pass them, I would kind of lay into it a little bit in 5th gear to get out and around them, and that's when I would notice the shifter was really jumping. So I just assumed that the Astro T5 that I have in here just doesn't like to be put under power in 5th gear, which would make sense. But when we left the show, on the way home, it was much worse. It was to the point where it was jumping out of 5th gear unless me or my wife held the shifter into 5th gear. So we took turns riding out 78, holding the shifter up in 5th. When we got to our exit where we needed to get off of 78, I went to downshift on the off-ramp, only to find out that it was not a transmission problem, that my shifter had come apart. So I'm going to show you here what happened. I bought LMR's, basically they call it their econo shifter. I bought this when it first came out like 7 years ago. So to be bluntly honest, I paid like $49 for it when it came out. I put it in the car. I've abused the snot out of it. So it literally owes me nothing. So, you know, anybody that's debating buying this shifter, it really, for the money, it's an incredible shifter. It really is. You know, over what was in here stock, this was great. And it's really held up considering the abuse that I've put it through. But I'll show you here. This shifter, okay, has these little Allen head caps that go down in these threaded holes here. And that's what holds your detent balls and springs in place so that this thing is not, as you can see, all loose and floppy and, you know, ready to fall out. What happened was this one on the 5th gear side apparently backed all the way out at some point, probably after we got back on the road to leave Chocolate Fox, backed the rest of the way out and fell out along with the spring and the detent ball. And then on our cruise out 78, this one proceeded to back the rest of the way out, and that dropped down inside the shifter. So as I was downshifting to exit, it jammed the shifter in 3rd gear, which of course led to some issues. I wound up struggling with it and managed to limp the car to an AutoZone, and in their parking lot I bought some tools. Unfortunately, the threads on this are a coarse metric thread, and the only plugs this style they had were pipe plugs, which of course were pipe thread. They did have some metric stuff, but it was all fine and extra fine. So needless to say, there was no... I dug that one plug out of the shifter, and that's all I had to work with. So I jammed that in there as far as it would go. I had 1st and 2nd gear, if I kind of really babied it. 3rd, 4th, and 5th were a mystery. I mean, because of the fact that other one was completely gone, it was just anybody's guess as to what gear you were going to go into if you went for 3rd, 4th, or 5th. Sometimes I would get 3rd, sometimes I would get 5th, going for 3rd. Sometimes I'd get 1st. You know, I was real ginger about starting to let the clutch out. If I heard that, you know, the R's were coming up, oh, yep, that's 1st, not 3rd. But we managed to limp the car home. In hindsight, easy fix for that. Pull those out from the factory. They weren't Loctited. So pull those bad boys out if you do happen to buy one of these shifters. Pull them out. Put some Loctite on those threads. Put them back in. Adjust them to where the shifter works real nice, and leave them. Yeah, blue Loctite, not red. In case you ever have to adjust it again. But anyways, so that's my story. That's kind of why I wanted to post up here real quick. Getting ready to rip this thing out of here and install a Steeda Tri-Ax. I went with the Steeda Tri-Ax. The two shifters that everybody was recommending were the Tri-Ax or the MGW. It seems like there's a really huge following for the MGW shifter, that it is probably the favorite amongst Mustang owners. My only problems with the MGW were, one, I can't use my Hurst chrome stick and T-handle, which being 50 years old and kind of a little old school, I'm kind of really attached to it. The MGW shifter does not accept that. And number two, MGW didn't have one in stock. They would have to, basically I'd have to wait until they got one made and ship it to me. They were looking at like 6 to 8 weeks out. And honestly, weather's beautiful, shows are starting, and I really, really, really just wanted to get this thing fixed and back on the road. After last year, the pandemic, we didn't get to use the car much. The year before, we had some family issues that prevented us from using the car much. So honestly, I just need to get the car back on the road so I can at least get some seat time in this thing. It's just, I put since 2016 I've put 2,300 miles on the car, and to be bluntly honest, they were probably most in 2017 and 2018. 19 and 20, I didn't get much seat time at all. So with that said, I'm hoping to get more seat time this year. So that's why I went with the Steeda. And it came highly recommended too. So if you're looking for a shifter, if you have no money and need to go with the Steeda Econo shifter, just keep it, or Steeda, sorry, LMR Econo shifter, definitely Loctite those plugs, those adjustment plugs in there after you get everything all set up. It'll come from the factory set up, ready to go. I personally would take them out very carefully so you don't lose the springs and detent balls, and put some Loctite, even back them like 3/4 of the way out, put some Loctite on and thread them back in to where they were, and leave them, just so that you don't run into the same situation that I did. And if you are looking to spend, decent money on a really good shifter, I would say Steeda Tri-Ax or MGW is the way to go. I will do another video on the Steeda when I get that installed and what I think of it. All right. So that's my chocolate box shifter story for you. All right. See you, folks.